Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about how to use stencils on the gel plate. If you've seen another one of my videos recently, I showed you how to make some stencils to use on the gel plate. So we're going to be using those today and maybe a few other ones just to show you some of the techniques you can actually use them for. So this is my gel plate. It's mounted on a piece of plexiglass just to keep it sturdy so it doesn't flop everywhere, and that just allows me to pick it up and move it around, whatever I need to do. So yeah, so here's some of the stencils we made. These are the ones we made out of Tyvek. So I got a little daisy and then a kind of a loopy shape. And then we made a couple more out of plastic binder divider materials. So this is just a spiral. And then I also noticed that the offcut of that one was quite interesting as well. So I'm gonna play with that a little bit. We can see what happens. And then here's another one just hanging around my desk. It's a cat. We might throw that one in there. Maybe not. We'll see. Let's see how it goes. So to start, let's choose some paint. I'm thinking this rose pink would be lovely. I see most of these prints that I'm going to end up with today kind of just being, you know, practice prints and things that I'm going to overprint later. Unless something comes out really great, which does happen. But this is more of a technique video to kind of show you how to do things rather than come up with a finished masterpiece. So I'm going to put a little bit of paint on there. I'm going to use my brayer, which is like a roller with a handle, to kind of move it around, spread the paint around. I'm going to make a nice even coating. All right. Okay. Looks good. Roll off my brayer. Okay, so the basics are, here's the one of the spiral stamps, so you can just kind of put it wherever you like to put it. This one is a bit tricky because it looks like it's gonna have to, like, look, it's kind of like floppy, so it might be a little tricky to place it precisely where it should go, but we're just gonna wing it anyway. That's okay. We got a little bit of a blip in there. Okay, so we put that one on. Let's put this one on too, because it's kind of fun. We'll put that one going the other way, just up here, boom. And then we'll take a piece of paper, take a print, see what happens. So stencils down, paper on, rub it, get good contact. I don't have to press super hard. I just got to press firmly and consistently. And I'm going to pay extra attention to where the stencils are because I want to make sure that I get all that paint that's like up against the stencils, but not actually under the stencil. Okay, so I'm going to pull it up. This is called the first pull. Yeah, so you can see how stencils work. I wonder if I had gotten a little bit of a different result if I had spread this out a little bit, or maybe I can actually trim it up to have a little more space in here. So that's pull one. That'll be the background of something. And then they call this the ghost print, which is kind of underneath. So I'm just pulling these up, trying not to touch them. And I'm going to put another piece of paper down. And we're going to pull that one. All right, so something that happens, especially with these binder divider stencils, is they end up with a lot of paint on them still. So I'm actually going to take some of that off before it dries. You don't have to do this, but I like to try and capture another impression if I can. So we're just going to flip them over, and I'm going to put another piece of paper on top, and I'm just going to see if I can take off any of that extra paint. I don't like wasting anything, and this is a great way to just kind of use things up, and it will be the beginning stages of another print or collage material or whatever. Oh, a little too dry. Didn't pick up much. Didn't pick up much at all. That's okay. All right, so let's see what happened with our ghost print. So I'm going to pull that up. All right, you can see, yeah, so this is kind of texture from the air bubbles that get trapped in between the binder divider stencil and the gel plate. I don't mind those, but you know, try to work them in or come up with a way to kind of counteract that. But I think that's part of the charm of jelly printing, is that it's never totally perfect and you never really know what you're gonna get. So just picking out a piece of hair. Okay, see, we got another little bit left. You can see where the paint has kind of stuck between the stencil and the gel plate, just the edges. So I'm going to put on a really light coat of something. I'll just pull it up because it's kind of interesting. That'll be a background for something else too. So, all right. Just gonna give it a minute, let it really adhere that dry paint to the pickup layer. Okay, you can see a little bit of the tiny ghost print. That's kind of fun. It'll be underneath something else when I print over top. Okay, so let's try the Tyvek ones. I'm going to put on some more pink paint, just a little bit, and I'm going to roll that out. Oops. Nice even layer. Ah. Okay, so here's our Tyvek stencils. I have used them already, so that's why you can see they're different. They've got different colors on them. And I'm gonna put this one down here, and that one maybe over here. It doesn't really matter, it's just for demonstration. And then I'm going to pick up that paint. I just go like this, pick it up. And there we go. So you can see the edges are pretty sharp because the material is quite thin. This here, you can see that it had some teal paint on it that wasn't quite dry, so that's transferred to the print. That is something that does happen sometimes with stencils, and if you want to avoid that, you just need to make sure your stencil's dry before you use them. But sometimes gel printing, you know, stuff happens, it adds some character, it's never perfect, and it never comes out the way you think it will anyway, so I'm kind of cool with the happy accidents that happen. So, okay, so I'm going to put this aside. We'll use that later for more printing, and then we're going to just take these off. So this, you can see, has got a very faint paint still left underneath. There's some cool, interesting details that happen here. You can see a little bit of the texture of the Tyvek right there, and also the outline. The outline is something that happens with the, especially thin stencils. Yeah, so I'm just gonna let this dry for a minute, and then we're gonna put pickup layer over top so that we can pick that interesting texture. So let it dry. Okay. For my pickup layer, I'm just gonna go really thin. A really thin layer of something that's kind of neutral is usually the best way to go. So I'm using unbleached titanium here, and I'm just gonna go really super thin, trying not to smush the brayer around on the gel plate, because if I do, I will mess up anything that I wanted to keep. So if I'm touching the plate with the brayer, it's moving, it's rolling or whatever. Okay, and then I want to put some paper on that pretty quick because it's pretty thin, and if I don't, it won't print. And pull it up. So this has got quite a bit of texture in it. You can see the little bits of texture from the Tyvek because it's so new. It has like it's like the texture it gets from the manufacturing process, and also the outline is super cool. So yeah. Okay, let's try a few more stencils. I'm just going to do some experiments with like layering them up and see what happens. So start with Dioxazine purple. This is a really dark purple, but it is kind of transparent. So I'm going to use, this is one of my stencils that I cut on my silhouette cameo. It's made out of the same binder dividers. And I'm just going to print over some of the things that we've been making, I think. So I'm going to print right over top of this. It's going to block out most of that pink anyway, but we'll see. Really what I want is that spirograph kind of design still on the plate. So I'm just taking off the outside parts of it. There we go. So that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to take this up and I'm going to let that dry a little bit. Okay, now that's mostly dry. I'm going to put on another transparent color. This one is quinacridone magenta, semi-transparent, I should say, translucent. And again, I don't want to move my brayer around without it rolling because it will mess up a bottom layer. Okay, so I'm going to use another stencil here as well. We're going to use this spiral one again. I'm trying to be quick because the paint is mighty thin, so okay. And I'm going to take a piece of the white paper. And pull it up. So this is not a great print, but honestly, I was kind of more interested in what's happening under here anyway. We'll see how that works. Yeah, still there. Okay. So that's something I can print over or use for collage. I'm gonna pick another color. Let's maybe go with this. Yeah, let's go with this again. And I'm going to use the same stencil I did before. I'm just going to stick it over here. And we're going to pull that up and see what happens. So stencils that have really intricate designs or really small spaces in them are sometimes hard to pick up with thick paper because it doesn't want to go in between the holes. So I think part of the reason that this didn't come out so well is that I didn't burnish it very good and it doesn't have a clear line on it or an edge. But I also think that's because my stencil for that one is just so wibbly wobbly that it's hard to get a good surface contact and actually control that one. So that one's maybe not a great stencil design. Okay, let's see what we got here. So this one picked up the rest of that first one, and then it's blocked out all the where the texture was. So you can see that there's some interesting things happening even on my plate here, where there's like layers of things. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna pick that up with bright green, aqua green, and we're just gonna use another mask and see what we get. You can see here, this is because there was a piece of wet paint on there that didn't want to dry. But that's totally okay. So I'm going to put this down here, and I'm just going to kind of pick up a light layer. I don't want to pick up the whole thing. Mostly I just want to pick up what's down here. Okay, cool. All right, and now I think I'm gonna let this dry for a second and try and pick up the whole thing with the ecru. This is my fancy trick for drying for this, like gel press. Okay, I'm gonna pick this up. So nice thin coat. Might be too much paint, but I'm gonna use it anyway. Okay, so pickup layers, I usually let them sit a little bit longer because I want them to pick up everything they can off the plate. Stencils, I usually work a little faster because sometimes I want the positive part of the stencil as well as the negative. And to do that, you got to be fast enough that you can pull both prints before the paint is dry. Not long enough. Pushing it back down. Usually you can kind of tell if the plate feels a little bit cool. It's not quite dry yet. Okay, interesting. So, I mean, this isn't a spectacular print, but I am getting some things that I wouldn't have been able to get if I tried. For instance, this interesting like magenta and teal thing happening over there is really cool. That's really cool over there. There's definitely some potential in here, but I think this will end up being in the collage bin. But that's totally okay. All right, I'm going to just wipe this off a little bit because I don't always like the residue. Some people do. I'm not like crazy particular about it, but I like to have a little more control over things a lot of the time. Okay, just drying off the plate. Okay, let's try something a little different. I'm gonna start with this. I'm gonna do a little bit of a layering technique. See what happens. The thing about gel printing is you can never totally anticipate what you're gonna get because it all depends on how your stencils interact and how the paint interacts on the plate and what the temperature is and how fast it dries and all those things. So let's start with the same one again. I'm gonna pick up the extra. So I'm actually going to print that right over top of something. I'm going to print that right over top of this. Okay, cool. All All right, and now I'm gonna add some other paint. Let's maybe go with this one. This is turquoise blue. I'm just gonna go right over top of everything. This is pretty opaque, but that's okay. One of these days I will do a little bit more of a video on transparency. Okay, so I'm gonna take this off. Hopefully there's a little bit left on there. Let's get another stencil maybe. I'm gonna take another one of my spirograph ones. And I'm gonna try and print this. It might be too dry already for that paint, but we'll see. The other great thing about gel printing is if you make something you don't like, you just overprint it. Okay, well, some of it came through, not that much. It kind of looks like a scribble. Maybe those stencils, the spirograph ones aren't that great to overlap, but that's intriguing. All right, let's see what we can do here. I'm gonna maybe do like a light yellow, I think, to pick that up. I'm gonna let it dry a little bit. So I'm gonna pull out my other gel plate, mostly just so I can like mix the color. Okay, let's go with cadmium yellow deep hue and some unbleached titanium. I'm just gonna kind of mix that up. Went like a buttery kind of a yellow. That's a little, ooh, I like that though. It's a little more yellow than I wanted, but it's a nice color. Okay, I'm gonna use that. So we look dry. I'm gonna put this on. So any color that I use behind a transparent color is actually going to change the color. So that pink that we used, magenta, might turn out to be a little more orange. But let's see. Okay, I'm going to give it a little bit of a minute. You know you're an artist when your hands are always like different colors. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Look. So you can see there's a little bit here that the paint was too wet to pull that up. That's totally okay. So those are using a couple of my stencils. So I hope that kind of gives you starting place where to use your stencils. There's different ways you can kind of layer things together, but it's tough to know actually what happens, because you might pick up something that you don't mean to, or not pick up something when you know, don't want to, but it's really hard to kind of anticipate that. But that's part of the fun of it. That's just gel printing in general, is that you never quite know what you're going to get. So anyway, I think that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Take care.